Good evening, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:02 for the October 3rd Committee of Adjustment. This is a hybrid meeting, both virtual and in person. And we have it that when it comes time for the public input, we will ask for input from the chambers first, and then ask people in the virtual audience to use a raise hand feature, and we can bring you into the meeting. And all of the codes of conduct and all appropriate codes and acts are used in this meeting style as if we were all in person. So with that, going to the first item is the adoption of the agenda. Members, do we have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda? Mr. Gordon, seconded by Mr. Booth. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Disclosure of pecuniary interest in the general nature thereof. Does any member have a pecuniary interest to disclose at this time? Seeing none. Committee of Adjustment meetings for August 2nd. They're in our package here. Were there any errors or omissions noted by members? Seeing none. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes? Committee member Parks and Mr. Gordon. Any comments? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. So the first item up is 466 Country Club Drive. Mr. Avish, you have a presentation for us?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'll be presenting. Thank you. So this particular minor variance application is for the subject property located at 466 Country Club Drive. The applicant is requesting a minor variance to reduce the rear yard setback for a deck from 6 meters to 5 meters and to increase the maximum lot coverage from 50% to 54.50%. Again, to facilitate the construction of the deck. The property forms a part of Loyalist Estates subdivision located towards the west end of the Bath. Also, the property forms part of a 5-unit townhouse fronting on the Country Club Drive. Since this is the minor variance application, section 45(1) of the Planning Act prevails, and we need to review it through 4 planning tests. Accordingly, the provincial policy statement was reviewed. The County of Lennox and Edmonton official plan designates the land as tribal area in the Schedule A. The pertinent sections of the official plan were reviewed. For our Loyalist Township official plan, the land is designated as low density residential in the Schedule D. And again, the pertinent sections were reviewed. The proposal to construct a deck in the rear yard is also observed across other properties in the same area, and the proposal is in conformity with the surrounding uses and the character of the neighborhood. The proposed deck is recognized as an acceptable residential use and does not appear to conflict with any of the associated policies of both the official plans. Therefore, staff is of the opinion that the proposed development meets the general intent and purpose of both the official plans and is in conformity with the policies of the provincial policy statement. Moving forward, the Loyalist Township zoning bylaw has zoned the subject land as residential type 5. With exception number 3, pertinent sections of the zoning bylaw were reviewed, and when considering a variance of this type, staff consider the impact on the streetscape and neighboring properties. The proposed deck is within the rear yard of the property, projecting negligible impact on the streetscape. The deck is permitted use, and there are several other properties with a deck in the rear yard within the same area. Sufficient setback is provided from the proposed deck to not negatively impact the amenity space of the neighboring properties. Therefore, staff are of the opinion that the general intent and the purpose of the zoning bylaw has been satisfied. Moving forward, the location and height of the dike will not impact neighboring land uses and serves to promote the intended residential use of the property. For this reason, planning staff are of the opinion that the variance is a desirable, compatible, and appropriate use of land. The variance can be considered minor as the location of the proposed dike will not negatively impact the neighboring character of the area, streetscape, and the environment. The proposed dike will still maintain the character of the primary residence and would result in a residential development that is in keeping with the area. So for the above reasons, planning staff are of the opinion that the variance is minor in nature. The application has been reviewed by internal departments and vetted through local agencies to ensure compliance with the above criteria. And there were no objections from any of the divisions or agencies. Also, at the time of writing the report and as of now presenting the report, no public comments were received for this particular minor variance application. So for this reason and all the reasons mentioned above, planning staff is of the opinion to approve the minor variance application. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee members, any questions for clarification to staff? Seeing none, we'll open it to the public. Anyone in chambers, do they want to speak to this item or yes? Seeing none, I'll ask the virtual audience if anyone wishes to speak to this. If you use the raise hand feature, we can bring you into the meeting. Seeing none, I'll come back to committee. We have a recommendation before us with the report. How do you wish to proceed? Mr. Booter.
To approve the recommendations that are requested by the municipality.
So move. Do we have a seconder? Ms. Parks. Mover, any comments? Seconder? Any comments? Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion is carried. The next one is 624 Millhaven Road. And
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be presenting this application for permission for the subject lot located at 624 Millhaven Road. So the applicant is requesting permission to increase the height of an existing non-conforming residence from 3.58 meters to 5.33 meters. The increase in height is desired to add additional room to the loft floor. This portion of the loft floor falls within the 15 meter setback from the floodplain line. But there are no additional, no additional rooms are being proposed, and the permission is solely to obtain additional space for the loft floor. There is no change to the existing footprint of the structure, and it is the increase in the volume that is triggered this application. The property is located on the west side of Millhaven Creek and has frontage on Millhaven Road. Currently, the property contains an existing dwelling, a garage, and a storage shed. The existing residence at 624 Millhaven Road was in existence under the previous zoning bylaw, and its use has continued since that. The existing footprint of the residence does not comply with the current zoning provisions and is encroaching the entire minimum setback of 15 meters, which is required as per the zoning bylaw. In addition, portions of the dwellings are within the environmental protection zone, which does not permit residential uses. As a result, the existing use is a legal non-conforming use. The application for permission under section 45(2) of the Planning Act is not subject to the 4 generic test that needs to be conducted for an application for the minor variance. However, the basic intent remains the same. So the provincial policy statement was reviewed for the application. The county's official plan has designated the land as rural area in the Schedule A. The pertinent sections of the county official plan were reviewed. The Loyalist Township official plan designates the subject land as rural and environmental protection in the Schedule A and parts of environmentally sensitive areas in Schedule B of the plan. Again, the pertinent sections were reviewed. So moving forward, based upon relevant aerial and elevation mapping, it appears that the entire dwelling falls within the 15-meter adjacent to the floodplain line, which is minimum required setback from the floodplain line. The application was also circulated to CRCA to obtain their comments on the proposed application. Similar to the township's zoning bylaw, CRCA guidelines also require 15-meter setback from buildings and structures from the floodplain line associated with the Millhaven. In this case, the proposed development is not encroaching further into the hazard or aggravating any hazard, and emergency access is not further restricted. The change to the dwelling and resulting increase in living space is considered to be minor and does not put the property at further risk of flooding. Thus, the requested permission does not aggravate any natural hazards and is not considered to negatively impact the neighboring properties or natural heritage, and therefore appears to be an appropriate use of the land. The application was also circulated to Engineering and Building Division, and there were no concerns identified with the proposed permission application. Therefore, staff is of the opinion that the proposed development meets the general intent and purpose of both the county and Loyalist Township official plan, and is in conformity with the provincial policy statement. The land is zoned RR, which is rural residential, and environmental protection as per our zoning bylaw. The proposed height increase is less than 10 meters, which is the maximum permitted height of a structure in the rural residential zone. The height increase will only impact the northern corner of the structure, and since there is no change in the existing footprint of the structure, the requested permission will not impose any implication on the character of the neighborhood and the streetscape. Therefore, staff are of the opinion that the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw has been satisfied. Again, the application has been reviewed by internal departments and vetted through local agencies to ensure compliance with the above criteria. There were no objections received from any of the department or agencies. And at the time of writing the report, and as of now, presenting the report, there were no comments received from the members of public. Therefore, staff is of the opinion to approve the particular application for permission. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee members, any questions for staff on this? Seeing none, I would open it to in chambers. If anyone in chambers wishes to speak to this item, please come forward. Seeing none, I'll ask in the virtual audience, if anyone in the virtual audience wishes to speak to this item, please use the raise hand feature and you can be brought in. Seeing none, we'll proceed. Committee, we have a recommendation. How would you like to proceed? We have a mover. Mr. Booter.
On all to move with the recommendations from staff.
So move. Do we have a seconder? Mr. Gordon, mover, any comments? Seconder? Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is carried. Next one is 216-222 Main Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'll be presenting this particular application from minor variance. The subject lot is located at 216/222 Main Street in Bath. It's also known as Main Street Plaza Corporation. So the applicant is requesting a minor variance from the township bylaw to reduce the parking requirements from 163 spaces to 146 spaces, being a reduction of 17 parking spaces. The variance is required due to increased parking requirements for a proposed new use on the site, which is place of worship. The property is subjected to an existing segment. The site is located on the eastern side of the village of Bath, east of the gas station on the northeast corner of Somerset Drive and Main Street. The site contains 3 constructed buildings and 1 building not yet constructed. Building B is occupied by businesses of various forms. Again, since this is a variance application pertaining to section 45(1) of the Planning Act, 4 tests were done. The provincial policy statement was reviewed. The county's official plan designates the land as urban area in Schedule A. The Loyalist Township official plan designates the subject land as commercial in Schedule B of the plan. The subject property is subjected to an approved site plan agreement, and the requested variance for the reduction in the parking spaces is required due to the proposed new use. It is important to note that the reduction in the number of the parking space has been triggered by proposed new use, and none of the existing parking spaces are being. The applicant retained Forefront Engineering Inc. as a consultant to prepare a parking brief in support of the proposed application. The report highlights observation that the existing businesses utilizing the parking spaces at a rate considerably lower than what is approved. The expected time of peak parking demand were also taken into the consideration. The parking brief report to reference from ITE parking generation manual 5th edition, and it was calculated that the maximum peak demand on Sundays is 94 spaces as compared to 147 available, and on Saturday it's 117 spaces again as compared to 147 which is available. The parking brief concluded that the existing parking will be sufficient to accommodate the demand for the proposed church due to existing parking demand and the non-coinciding nature of the site uses and the respective peak parking demand times. It was recommended that the requested variance for relief of up to 17 parking spaces is appropriate. The proposed new use as a place of worship is also recognized as an acceptable commercial use and does not appear to conflict with any of the associated policies of both the official plans. The proposal was circulated to county, engineering, and public work divisions, and no concerns were noted. Therefore, staff is of the opinion that the proposed minor variance application meets the general intent and purpose of both the official plans and is in conformity with the provincial policy statement. Moving forward, the Loyalist Township zoning bylaw has zoned the land as shopping center commercial with exception of mistakes. The variance is again required to increase parking requirements for proposed new use, which is the place of worship. As a result, 17 parking spot is required with 1 accessible parking spot. As I mentioned earlier, the applicant retained a consultant named Forefront Engineering Inc. to provide a planning brief. And the planning brief concluded that the reduction in the parking spaces by 17 spaces as a part of the minor variance application is appropriate. There are no other zoning implications, and a site plan would not be required with the overall parking layout remaining the same. Therefore, the staff is of the opinion that the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw has been satisfied. The requested variance is considered an appropriate development of the land, and the variance can be considered minor as the proposal to reduce increase need of the parking spaces will not negatively impact the functionality of the site or cause insufficient parking to accommodate the users on the site. The application has been reviewed by internal departments and vetted through local agencies to ensure compliance with the above criteria, and there were no objections received from any of the departments or agencies. And at the time of writing the report and right now presenting the report, there were no comments obtained from the member of public. Therefore, staff is of the opinion to approve the proposed minor variance application. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee members, any questions for staff? Ms. Parks.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I'm assuming to staff. I was talking actually to a couple of the Plaza residents or clients, I guess, that are existing in the Block A. And they weren't aware of any of this change that's being proposed to the parking. So they do have a little bit of concern because most of the existing clients that are in that space do require people to be able to park in front of their units for accessibility matters. So I guess my question would be, how do we ensure that when the congregational people are attending the church, those spaces are still available for those clients. The owner of the property won't dedicate spots directly for those clients. So there's a concern for that, for accessibility.
You wish to respond?
Yeah, so through you, Mr. Chair, a calculation was done for the increased spaces, which comes at 163 spaces, which is inclusive of 8 accessible parking spots. They already had 7 accessible parking spots as compared to 6, which was required before. So they had 1 additional, and in order to make it in compliance with the zoning bylaw, we asked them to use one of the regular parking spots. So 2 parking spots were utilized to make 1 accessible parking spot. So now it is in compliance with the required minimum zoning bylaw. Also, the planning consultant was hired to prepare a planning report. And based on the reference which they have used, the minimum required parking spot, considering the maximum peak demand, was 117 spaces. And as of now, we have 147 spaces with 8 spaces as accessible parking space. So we are almost way ahead as per the requirement. So I think that should not pose any implications, especially for the accessible parking spots. Thank you.
Okay. Does that address your question, Ms. Parks?
Not really. I guess what I'm trying to say is the people that park in front of the existing clients, whether they're accessible spaces, dedicated to accessible spaces or not, usually have some concerns with mobility. So they do use those spaces. My concern is when the church is operating and holding their services, those spaces in front of the units may be taken up by the clients to the church or the congregation to the church, and those other clients won't be able to use those spaces because it is not dedicated through the landlord.
So they're looking for dedicated spaces for their business.
Well, yes, that's what the clients are looking for, just because, again, they don't want to have their clients parking out at the road if the rest of the parking lot is filled up with the congregation. And rightly so, because a lot of those people do have mobility issues that are used in a doctor's office and the physiotherapist and a pharmacy.
Okay. Staff, what's the normal process for dealing with this? Is that a owners? Or
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, that's more of a property owner issue. We can't control whether, like, we can control the parking for the shopping plaza requirements as a whole and what's needed that way. But they're responsible if they're going to be allowing for dedicated parking and they wanted to provide that for each tenant. So sometimes you can see those signs in front that speak to that, you know, this parking is reserved for that. So that would have to be a conversation with the owner. We can, you know, encourage that, but we wouldn't be able to impose that as part of a minor variance application. All we can say for this is that the increased parking that's required to accommodate this use, that the rationale is made that the overall parking spaces for the site as a whole can work, and not, but the evaluation isn't so much about, well, then where each spot for each business could be done, as the owner would kind of need to provide that.
Thanks. That's what I thought. I figured it would have to be a discussion with the owner of the property or the landlord to try to get that resolved for those clients. Thank you.
okay. Thank you. Any other questions from committee members? Seeing none, I'll turn to the audience in chambers. Anyone wish to speak to this item, please step forward. Seeing none. Virtual audience, we do have one. We have one that wishes to speak. You will be brought into the meeting momentarily.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Please proceed.
My name is Patrick Hulley. I'm the one of the owners of the property. And just with respect to the comment made, we value all of our tenants that are there, and we have a sort of rules and regs that we can institute to control that. So if we did have any issues with respect to maintaining the parking, we want it to work for all. We, as a result of the study we did and reviewing the parking and increasing the handicap access, we are confident that we will have no issues, but to address the concern that if there was something raised by any of the tenants, we would be sure to address it to make it work for all. Again, we don't anticipate any issues. And one of the things that I saw in the report was the use is to promote efficient development and land use to serve the community, which this use clearly does. And we will ensure that it runs efficiently for all. And I think it's a valid concern that we will definitely address. And that's how we would operate in any way, shape, or form. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Parks, you have a question?
I just wanted to thank Mr. Hulley for that comment. That's all.
Very good. If you can just stay for a minute, Mr. Hulley.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Other committee members, any questions? Comments? Seeing none, thank you so much for coming in and clarifying that. That's the kind of cooperation we appreciate. Thank you. So if anyone else in the virtual audience wishes to speak to this, if you use the raise hand feature, we can bring you into the meeting. Seeing none, we'll proceed then. Committee, we have the report with recommendation in front of us. How do we like to proceed? We have a mover. Second call, Mr. Boudreaux.
Move upon staff's recommendations.
We'll move, seconded by Mr. Gordon. Any comments from the mover? Seconder? Anyone else? Seeing none? Call the question. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion is passed. The next one is concession 1, part lot 19, front row, minor variance. Savage?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'll be presenting this minor variance application. So the applicant is requesting minor variance to reduce the floodplain setback from 15 meters to 8 meters, as well as to reduce the rear yard setback from 10 meters to 8 meters, and then to reduce the minimum dwelling unit area from 96 square meters to 91 square meters. In order to facilitate the construction of a single detached dwelling. The property is an existing lot of record located on the north side of the front road, west of the village of Stella on the island, and has water frontage on Lake Mountain. The topography of the site can be characterized as being relatively low and flat, and the property is currently vacant. Since it's the minor variance application, as per section 45 of the Land Act, 4 tests were conducted. Provincial policy statement was reviewed. The county's official plan designates the land as rural area in Schedule A of the plan. The particular sections of the county official plan were reviewed. The Loyalist Township official plan designates the land as Shoreline Residential in the Schedule A. Again, the pertinent sections were reviewed. And based upon the elevation mapping and the information contained on the survey provided with the application, the proposed development will be located outside of any area that may be subject to potential flood risk. Comments provided by CRCA have not identified concerns associated with the requested variance. The development is considered in keeping with the residential uses that have been seen along the stretch of the waterfront. The proposed location for the development of a residence will not cause disturbances to the surrounding area. Therefore, staff is of the opinion that the proposed development meets the general intent of both the official plans and is in conformity with the provincial policy statement. The subject land is zoned Shoreline Residential as per the township's zoning bylaw. The applicant is requesting to reduce the floodplain setback again from 15 meters to 8 meters to accommodate the construction. The encroachment with the 15 meter setback has been satisfied through consultation with the CRCA to ensure that natural hazards associated with the shoreline of the Ontario were appropriately considered. The reason relief is requested from the rear yard setback is due to zoning provisions, which states that no portion of the floodplain can be considered in calculation of any zoning provisions. In this case, the rear yard coincides with the floodplain line, triggering the requirement for the relief from 10 meters to 8 meters. Finally, the proposed dwelling, as detailed on the CAD sketch, has a dwelling area of 91 square meters. As the applicant intends to set up a relatively smaller structure on the lot. The proposal was circulated to the building division, and there were no concerns identified with the proposed dwelling unit area. The requested reduction in the dwelling area is not significant and is considered very nature. The proposal also complies with all the other zoning provisions, and therefore staff are of the opinion that the general intent and purpose of this zoning bylaw has been satisfied. The requested variances are considered an appropriate development of the property for the residential purposes and are not considered to impact the general character of the surrounding area or aggravate individual residents. So the planning staff is of the opinion that the variance is a desirable, compatible, and appropriate use of the land. The variances can be considered minor as the location of the proposed dwelling maintains all the zone regulations. The proposed setback reduction into floodplain is beyond minimum requirement of 6 meters as per CSA guidelines. Therefore, staff is of the opinion that the variance is minor in nature. The application has been reviewed by internal departments invited through local agencies to ensure compliance with the above criteria. There were no objections received from any of the departments or agencies. And at the time of writing the report and as of presenting the report, no comments from the member of public for this. So for this reason, and all the reasons mentioned above, planning staff is of the opinion to approve the proposed maintenance application. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee members, any questions for staff at this time? Seeing none. In-person audience in chambers, anyone wish to speak to this item? Seeing none. Go to the virtual audience. If anyone wishes to speak to this, please use the raise hand feature. We can bring mine to the meeting. Seeing none, we'll proceed. Committee, we have the report with recommendation and conditions. How do you wish to proceed? Do we have a mover?
Move to receive and adopt recommendations.
So moved. Seconded by Mr. Booger. Mover, any comments? Seconder? Any others? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. The next one is 176 West Prairie Avenue, Bonnie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'll be presenting this minor variance application for the subject lot located at 176 West Prairie Avenue in Bath. The applicant is requesting a minor variance to reduce the exterior yard setback from 6 meters to 2.25 meters, to reduce the street center line setback from 16 meters to 11 meters, and to allow the construction of the detached garage to be closer to the street line by 1 meter as compared to the primary residence, to facilitate the construction of a detached garage on the subject property. The property forms a part of Houghton Park subdivision located towards the west of the Bath. The property is north of the Main Street Bath and is a corner property with frontage on both Westbury Avenue and Somerset Drive. Currently, the property fronts on Westbury Avenue and is developed by a single detached dwelling. Again, since this is a minor variance application, as per section 45 of Planning Act, 4 tests were conducted. The provincial policy statement was reviewed. The county's official plan designates the land as urban area in the Schedule A. The township official plan designates the land as low density residential in the Schedule G. The relief being requested in order to construct a detached garage in the exterior side yard of the subject property is not viewed to have any negative impact on the functionality of the year-round residential use that currently exists on the site. The proposal to construct a detached garage in the side yard is also observed across other properties in the area, and the proposal is in conformity with the surrounding uses and connection of the neighborhood. The proposed detached garage is recognized as an acceptable residential use and does not appear to conflict with any of the associated policies of both the official plan. Next, the proposal will not impact the residential use of the subject property or the neighboring properties. Therefore, staff is of the opinion that the proposed development meets the general intent and purpose of both the official plan and is in conformity with the provincial policy statement. The land is zoned residential type 1 as per the zoning bylaw. The pertinent sections of the zoning bylaws were reviewed and the variances are required due to the shape of the subject lot, which is rectangular. The lot has a wide frontage towards the south, which narrows down moving north. The proposed garage will be located towards the north end of the lot, resulting in the need for the variances. When considering a variance of this type, staff consider the impact on the streetscape and neighboring properties. The detached garage is a permitted accessory use to the residential use, and there are other properties in the vicinity with the detached garage present in the center. There is a buffer of approximately 10 meters between the location of the proposed garage and the adjacent properties. There is also the presence of a few mature trees, which provides a sufficient buffer from the neighboring properties. There are no privacy concerns as the sole purpose of the garage is for parking vehicles and for storage. Therefore, staff are of the opinion that the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw has been satisfied. The requested variances consider an appropriate development of the land as the proposed detached garage is in keeping with the residential use of the property. The location and the height of the proposed garage will not impact neighboring land users and serves to promote the intended residential use of the property. For the above reasons, planning staff are of the opinion that the variance is suitable and compatible use of the land. The variance can be considered minor as the location of the proposed garage will not negatively impact the neighboring land. The application has been reviewed by internal departments and vetted through local agencies to ensure compliance with the above criteria, and there have been no objections received from any of the departments or agencies. And at the time of writing the report, and as of now presenting the report, there were no comments observed from members of the public. So for this reason and all the reasons mentioned above, planning staff is of the opinion to approve the proposed amendments application. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee members, any questions for staff at this time? Seeing none, we'll go to the audience in chambers. If anyone wishes to speak to this, please come up to the podium. Seeing none, in the virtual audience, if anyone wishes to speak to this item, use the raise hand feature, we can bring you in. Seeing none, we'll proceed. Committee, we've got the report with the recommendation. How do we like to proceed? Do we have a mover? Mr. Booker. So moved.
So moved with the recommendations, yes.
Thank you. Seconded by Mr. Townend. Mover, any comments? Seconder, any comments? Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. And the next two are from the same piece of property. So the presentation will receive the presentation for both properties at the same time, and then we'll deal with each one individually while we're making motions going forward. So,
Yeah.
Mr. Avnish, if you care to continue, please, with both properties.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So as you mentioned, there are two concurrent applications for land severance of the same parcel, and I will be presenting both the applications together as majority of these applications are the same. I'll mention the areas of difference during my presentation. So quickly moving forward with the presentation, the applicant Daniel Allen is requesting consent to sever 0.55 hectares of land and another parcel of 0.73 hectares of land with the frontage on County Road 28, which is also known as Millhaven Road, leaving the remaining parcel of approximately 23.6 hectares. So the subject lands are located to the east of the intersection of the Chatterson Road and Millhaven Road, and occupy lot 27 in concession 3 of the Unstown in Loyalist Township. The severed properties are proposed in the southeastern corner of the subject lands with frontage on the Millhaven Road. The terrain of the severed lot consists mostly of clear fields. The retained lot consists of clear fields and woodlands that have been identified as contributory and significant woodlands in the CRCA Natural Heritage Study. There is a watershed boundary transecting the lot, and to the north of the boundary, there is Millhaven Creek and an associated wetland channel. Water to southwest of the property and eventually drains the water into the lake. This to the south of the boundary is an unnamed watercourse that enters from the property's eastern boundary, runs south, and eventually drains into Prairie Lake. The topography of the sewer lot appears to be relatively flat, with surface drainage flowing towards the unnamed watercourse. The lot is currently vacant, though there is an existing entrance to the west of the watercourse, which is accessed via Millhaven. So the planning act considerations were made, and neither the retained nor the sewer lot include any naturally occurring or human-made hazard lands. Staff are of the opinion that the proposal represents an efficient use of the available land resources, and therefore the proposal appears to satisfy the planning and considerations. Also, the provincial policy statement considerations were made. The provincial policy statement permits appropriate development on the rural lands. The proposal maintains the rural character of the area, and the resulting lot is of an appropriate shape and size. CRCA has also provided comments advising that the sewer lot is located well away from the woodlands on the property, and that the disturbance is not anticipated to negatively impact the watercourse or woodland ecosystem on site. The proposal does not appear to conflict with any of the policies set out in the provincial policy. The County of Lennox and Addington official plan designates the land as rural area in the Schedule A, and the Loyalist Township official plan designates the land as rural in Schedule A and parts of environmentally sensitive in Schedule B. The consent ruler and environmentally sensitive policies of the township official plan were examined in detail. The county official plan refers to the local official plan for rural lot creation. The subject lot is currently a vacant lot. The lot has not been subjected to any previous severances since January 27, 1986. And as per the current policy framework, 2 severances are permitted. In this case, the proponent is seeking creation of 2 new lots. Both the proposed lots comply with minimum frontage and area requirements and comply with the policies of township's current official plan. The retained lot would result in more than 150 meters of frontage on the Millhaven Road and will encompass an area which is greater than 10 hectares. And thus the proposal is in compliance with the consent policies of the township official plan. Minimum distance separation calculation was also conducted as per ministry guidelines. And sufficient setbacks have been provided to ensure that the proposed severance is in compliance with the guidelines. The proposed severance was also in close proximity of an easement owned and operated by Enbridge Gas Inc. The easement is not intersecting the subject lot, and both the proposed severances are at a considerable distance of approximately 250 meters. There is a creek flowing north of the proposed severance. The water course enters the property's eastern boundary, runs south, and eventually drains into the Prairie Bay. The proposed severance is at a setback of greater than 30 meters, which is required both as per the CRCS guideline and township's zoning bylaw. Since the proposed severance is beyond the minimum required setback of 30 meters from the high water mark of the water course, it is not anticipated to adversely affect the water course in the property. Also, there are existing significant flow paths through portions of the property from Millhaven Road that may occur or limit the grading on these lots. Due to this, the engineering division is requesting a grading and drainage report to identify existing flow paths. Grading and finished floor elevation requirements as a condition to the proposed severance application. This report is to be completed at the expense of the owner, and the owner has been notified about the requirement. The county is the road authority and has reviewed the site in terms of safety relating to the position of the new entrances, and the county has no objection to the proposed severance. Lastly, since the current entrance to the subject lot is to the environmental protection zone, it was discussed with the proponent to relocate the entrance on the retail lot from within the EP zone to a new entrance, which is at least 30 meters from the water course and outside the environmental protection zone. The CRC, the county, and the proponent all are aware of this requirement, and it has been added as a condition to be addressed in the development agreement. The resulting sewer lot is in keeping with other lots in the area and would not be considered to promote street development, as well as it has not been identified as a bedrock study area as per the Schedule G of Township's official plan. For this reason, staff are of the opinion that the application meets the intent and purpose of the official plan. Moving forward, the subject property is zoned rural and environmental protection as per the zoning bylaw. Pertinent sections of the zoning bylaw were reviewed. The EP zone on the subject lot covers a creek flowing north of the proposed savings. This is the same unknown water creek that ends up that drains into the Parrots Bay. And as mentioned before, the proposed savings is at a setback of more than 30 meters, which satisfies the zoning bylaw requirement. Also, the area and lot frontage of the proposed savings and the retail lot conforms to the zoning requirements. Therefore, it is the opinion of the staff that the proposal meets the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. All the other matters can be addressed by conditions if approved. The application has been circulated to internal departments and applicable agencies, and there were no objections received from any of the departments or agencies. The notice of the public meeting was distributed in the prescribed fashion. And at the time of writing the report, no formal written comments have been provided by members of public. However, an email was received over the last weekend on 2nd October from a member of public. The email was forwarded to the members of the committee and to the applicant. And email identifies the concerns with the member of public having allergies from dust, which was cleared up if the construction begins. There were some issues with the excess traffic that would occur on an already busy road. Building on the land will destroy the biodiversity and the wildlife was another concern made. And the road, the wells are drying in the area and around the area. So there were also some concerns with the well and wildlife. So for the traffic, the application was already circulated to county and the public work department to get their comments. Now, with county being the regulatory authority for county road 28. Supportive comments have been obtained both from county and public work department. And in terms of entrances, also the county has no objection to the proposed entrances. For the biodiversity and wildlife concern, as mentioned in the report, there is an unknown water creek that is flowing through the lot, which forms part of environmentally sensitive area as per the Schedule B of the current official plan and is zone environmental protection as per the township's official plan. Also, the existing entrance to the subject lot is through that EP zone line, and as I mentioned that a condition has been provided to relocate that from the EP zone away from the EP zone with sufficient buffer as per the zoning bylaw, which is in a way is improving the situation because now we are having entrance in the buffer zone land. The proposed savings is also beyond the minimum setback required from the EP zone, and both the proposed land sellers like lot 1 and lot 2 are beyond EP zone, and those lands are zoned as rural with sufficient setbacks from the EP zone, as well as the retail land has sufficient room to accommodate one house, which is again beyond the setbacks required from the EP zone. So in a way, no development would occur in environmentally sensitive or EP zone. For the well, there were previous comments. Our previous comments have been received from the residents, and if the committee feels, then a condition to conduct a well inference study can be added as a part of condition to this application. The committee can also advise the owner to inform new owners of the land to keep this comment in mind. so that the member of the public who has the concerns can be notified beforehand when the lots created have been sold to the new owners. So lastly, for these reasons and all the reasons mentioned above, the staff is of the opinion to support both the proposed land service applications.
Thank you. Members, any questions for staff? Seeing none. I'll go to in chambers. Anyone in chambers wish to speak to this item?
Just a little clarification.
Can you
do I
just
gotta
come up to the
here?
podium,
I'm
state your
sorry.
name and address, and then you can.
Hi,
ask
it's
all you-
okay. It's Ruth Robbins, 711 Chatterson Road. Just a little clarification. Are you talking about the two properties across the street from the house that's going to be? Because I'm unclear on this.
Of where the proposed lots are?
Yeah,
No bathroom.
yeah. Thank you so much. This is where I'm going to need you. I'm just a little concerned about, if I understood rightly, the drying up of wells and stuff. Where are we?
With the same line, it's in our.
We're the blue house. You know the blue house that are you the owners? Do you know which house we just?
On the corner of Patterson.
Yeah.
Patterson Road, yeah.
So are you talking that parcel of land right beside us? Is that what he's talking about? Or are you talking the house?
Sorry, the questions have to go to the chair.
I'm so sorry. This is all new to me
I know.
because
I
there's,
want to let them answer, but sorry.
I know, I'm so sorry, Mr.
So-
Hagedorn.
With what I see, and we'll open it to more people in the audience. if
Okay.
they wish to reply as well. Staff are also here. So if I see it right, you're the house right on the corner of Chatterson. the
Yes,
house,
yes,
And so the property would be
Right beside us.
right east of you, but the separate lots would be on the far side of that field.
gotcha.
East and west, yeah. East, two of them, I guess it is.
Is that correct, staff, from what I'm
Okay,
seeing on the drawing?
okay. So
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it
Okay,
does.
but what he was saying about the wells, it's like if they start digging more wells there, it's gonna affect our well. That's all my concern, one of them.
Okay,
Okay, on that property, because I know that the water there is very different in different areas.
yeah,
Okay, and if it's severed, it's gonna be two lots, so it'd be like one house and one house, or multiple houses.
the.
It'd
and
be a
I'll
lot,
let
it'd be
staff-
divided in,
Okay, they'll do better than I will.
sorry, no, but you're saying it's two lots.
Yes, two lots and.
So it'd be one house, if they decide it'd be one house on each lot,
The severance right now is for one dwelling on each lot, right? Each severance.
okay.
And I'll just let staff confirm.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's correct. And the retained parcel is also vacant as well. So there would be a dwelling that could be permitted on the retained parcel as well. So that could equal potentially three.
three
dwellings.
homes.
Okay, and what would be the frontage in each one of those lots?
I think our concern is main.
No, that's the other question I want to know too.
Six,
The frontage on Millhaven Road, would this frontage on each one of those lots be?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the frontage for both the new lots created should be 16 inches at least. As mentioned in the diagram, the red shaded area to the east are the two lots that are being proposed. And just to the west of that, there is sufficient space to accommodate the retaining lot. As of now, including the environmental protection zone. And to the other end of the boundary, the total frontage for the retail lot is 220 meters.
Okay,
That is my question. Thank you very much, sir.
thank you so much
Thank
for your
you.
patience.
anyone else in the audience wish to speak to this item? In chambers? Seeing none, I'll go to the virtual audience. Anyone in the virtual audience wish to speak to this item, please raise your hand and we'll bring you into the meeting.
Nothing.
Seeing none. So back to the committee, and I'm just, sorry, I just need a second to scroll. to the top. Okay. So committee, we have the report, the recommendations, and the input from the concerned citizen that lives near the lot. How do we like to proceed? Mr. Booger.
Receive the report with the recommendations from staff.
Proceed. Okay, so move, seconded by Mr. Gordon. And now, sorry. We're separating these, so this is the first one. I just want to clarify. This is for severance number D10, 10-2022. Keep them on straight, yes. Okay, so that's the one we're dealing with this, and we'll deal with the other severance with a separate motion. So from committee members, any comments from the mover, the seconder, anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise their hand. Motion is passed. So now dealing with D10, 11-2022. We also have the report and the recommendations on that. Council, how do you wish to proceed? Or council, sorry, committee, how would you wish to proceed? Mr. Gordon.
Move to receive and adopt recommendations.
So moved, seconded by Mr. Town. Any comments from the mover? The seconder? Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. So we'll do the same with the next two. They're both the same property owner. So, and both severances. So we'll, if you do the presentation for both, and then we'll separate, we'll try to remember to separate them this time before I call for the motion.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So as you said, again, these are two concurrent applications for land severance of the same parcel. And I'll be presenting them together, and I'll be highlighting the differences. So we are into the presentation. The applicant is requesting consent to sever 0.65 hectare and 0.55 hectares of land with the frontage on the road, leaving the remnant parcel of approximately 13.35 hectares. So the subject lands are located to the east of the intersection of Thorpe Road and River Road, and occupy lot 25 and concession 5 of Town in Loyalist Township. The several properties are proposed in the southwest and southeast corners of the subject lands with the frontage on the River Road. The topography of the severed lots appears to be relatively flat, with surface drainage flowing towards the center north of the property. The retained and severed lots are currently vacant, though there is an existing right of way that runs north through the center of the property to access the parcel of the land which is towards the northwest. So the planning consideration as per section 55, as per section 51(24) of the Planning Act 2000, and neither the retained nor the severed lot include any naturally occurring or human hazard lands. So the staff are of the opinion that the proposal represents an efficient use of the available land resources, and therefore the proposal appears to satisfy the planning and considerations. Also, the provincial policy considerations were made, as per the provincial policy statement, appropriate development on the rural land is permitted. The proposal maintains the rural character of the area, and the resulting lot is of an appropriate shape and size. Supportive comments were also obtained from CRC. So the staff is of the opinion that the proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement. The county's official plan designates the subject land as rural area in the Schedule B of the plan, and the township official plan designates the subject land as rural in Schedule A and parts of environmentally sensitive in Schedule B of the plan. All the pertinent sections of the township official plan were reviewed in detail. The subject lot, as I said, is currently vacant. The lot has not been subject to any previous severances since January 27th of 1986. And as per the current policy framework, 2 severances are permitted. In this case, the proponent is also seeking for creation of 2 more lots. Both the proposed lots comply with the minimum frontage and area requirements and comply with the policies of the township's current official plan. The retained lot would result in more than 150 meters of the frontage on Millhaven Road and will encompass an area which is greater than 10 hectares, satisfying the official plan's requirement. Again, minimum distance separation calculation were conducted as per ministry guidelines, and the proposed severance is beyond the minimum required setback. There is a local drainage swale occurring from the southeast corner of the proposed seaward lot. This is specific to the lot 1, which is on the east. The drainage has not been identified as environmental protection or parts of environmentally sensitive areas in the township's current official plan. CRCA was also consulted to identify if the local drainage channel was part of their regulation and mapping. CRCA was able to confirm that the drainage channel is a local channel and is not identified as a connecting water channel. Also, the depth of the lot on the east was increased from 90 meters to 110 meters, which was proposed initially to take the water channel into consideration. CRCA recommended that the drainage swale must be considered during the planning of the future development on the seaward lot, and that proper construction mitigation measures should be employed. The requirement has been conveyed to the applicant and has been incorporated into the development agreement condition as a part of the service application. Just to know, there were no issues with the drainage channel for the lot 2, which was only west and other side. And so it has a generic depth of plus or minus 90 meters. Moving forward, the retail lot also contains a portion of Wetland Creek. However, the Wetland Creek is located far north of the subject land, which is well away from the seaward lot. CRCA identifies a patch of contributory woodland on the subject lands. The retail lot contains sufficient area for future development to occur well outside of this woodlands, and these woodlands are now falling within the seaward lands. There are no anticipated negative impact of the woodland on the woodland ecosystem. So there is an existing right of way, and it coincides with the current entrance to the subject lot. The right of way is for a landlocked property, which is at a considerable distance from the proposed severance, and it's more towards northwest of the property. This landlocked site was used as sand pit way back in 1960s, but since then it has not been used as a sand pit, and again the official plan and zoning bylaw is designating it as rural land. So there are no conflicts with the sand pit, and just to be on the safer side, that land is more than 150 meters from the proposed severances, which is the minimum requirement as per the zoning bylaw. Again, the comments on the same were obtained from engineering department and public work department, and there were no concerns identified. Again, there are existing significant flow paths through flowing through the portions of the property. Due to this, the engineering division is requesting a grading and drainage report to identify existing flow paths. And the report is to be completed at the expense of the owner. And again, the owner has been notified for this requirement. The proposed seaward lot is in keeping with other lots in the area and is not considered to promote street development. And again, it has not been identified as a backlog study area in the Schedule G of the official plan. Therefore, staff is of the opinion that the application meets the intent and purpose of the official plan. The land is zoned rural and environmental protection as per the zoning bylaw. And the environmental protection zone on the subject lot is located towards the northeast corner where Wetland Creek is flowing, which is almost the other end of the lot and is at a considerable distance from it. Lastly, the area and the lot frontage of the proposed severance and retained lot conforms to the zoning requirement. Therefore, staff is of the opinion that the proposal is meeting up with intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. All the other matters can be addressed by conditions if approved. Again, the application has been circulated to internal departments and applicable agencies, and there were no objection received from any of the department or agencies. And at the time of writing the report and as of presenting the report, no formal or written comments have been received from the members of the public. So for this reason and for all the reasons mentioned above, planning staff is of the opinion to approve the proposed service application. Thank you.
Thank you. Committee members, any questions for staff at this time? Seeing none, we'll go to the audience in chambers. Is there anyone in chambers that wishes to speak to this item? Seeing none, we'll go to the virtual. If anyone in the virtual audience wishes to speak to this item, one or the other or both of these severances, use the raise hand feature. We'll bring them to me. Seeing none, we'll come back to the committee. We'll deal with D10-12-2022 first. We have, I'll just make sure everyone open. We've got the report with the recommendation. How do we wish to proceed? Do we have a motion to put on the table? Mr. Booker.
Receive and move forward the recommendations as per the staff recommendations.
So moved. Do we have a seconder? Mr. Gordon. Any comments from the mover? Seconder? Anyone else? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. We'll deal with D10-13-2022 now. Another severance from the same parcel. We again have the report with the recommendation. Committee, how do you wish to deal with this? Anyone have a motion? Mr. Town.
I move to receive the report and adopt the recommendations.
So move. Do we have a second? Mr. Booter. Mover, any comments? Seconder? Anyone else? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is passed. Okay, so we don't have anything else on here except upcoming meeting dates. This is the final meeting for this committee. The new committee will be convening on December 12th. I'm assuming we do have items for that one at this time, so that will be carved in stone. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Boudreaux, seconded by Mr. Townend. All those in favor, please raise a hand. Motion is carried. We are adjourned. Thanks, folks.